Welcome to Season 2, Episode 14 of Angela Watson's Truth for Teachers. I'm your host, Angela Watson, and I'm here to speak life, encouragement, and truth into the minds and hearts of educators and get you energized for the week ahead. Today, I want to share some strategies for grabbing your class's attention quickly and getting them refocused. Visit truthforteachers.com to read the blog post, get links to recommended resources, and share your thoughts on the show. By this point in the school year, many of us have lost the patience and enthusiasm for refocusing kids in a playful way, and we started falling into the trap of just barking at kids, no talking, or pleading with them, I need quiet, reading for quiet, and we do this all day long. But ironically, it's more tiring to keep repeating your request for silence, since nagging kids puts us in a bad mood, and after the 100th time, the kids just tune us out anyway. You really are better off trying to muster up just a little bit more energy and grabbing kids' attention in a fun and engaging way, because then you won't have to repeat yourself, and you won't be derailing the positive momentum of your lesson by stopping to fuss at kids who are off task. So here are 5 types of attention grabbers that I really love using with kids. My absolute favorite, number 1, is music and songs. Music is one of the most fun and effective ways to get students to stop what they're doing and come together as a whole group. For the youngest students, you can use finger plays, use things like Itsy Bitsy Spider and Open Shut Them. But students of any age will respond to simple tunes and musical callbacks. You can just say bum bada bum bum and have the kids call back bum bum. And the great thing about this is that if the kids are singing, they aren't talking. And if you make up motions for the song, then their hands are busy too. And then they're not still working or playing with the materials. So when you do this, you can repeat the song or the finger play or the callback if everyone's not quiet, but teach kids that the goal is to not sing it more than once. Just one time and everyone should be back together as a whole group. If you don't like your singing voice and you're just not comfortable singing with your class, try playing music on your computer or your phone or your CD player. You can use kids' songs, you can use popular music that has appropriate classroom lyrics, or use classical or jazz songs that you want to expose kids to. Or try songs that are related to your unit of study. I like to use clips of short songs, just like 30 or 60-second clips. One teacher I know uses a wind-up music box, and that's kind of a nice way to have just like a short version of a song as well. Try using the same song daily for several weeks, and teach kids that when the music stops, instruction begins. And if you use the same song for the same type of transition, you'll find that the kids have almost a Pavlovian response to it. Just hearing the first few notes immediately triggers the target behavior, and it gets them ready to listen. It calms them down and quiets them without you having to say anything. Second attention grabber is instruments and special sounds. Kids hear our voices all day long, and the constant buzz of students working together and collaborating becomes background noise for them, and they just learn how to tune everything else out. So what you need is a really distinct sound that breaks through all the other noise in the classroom. I have become a collector of noisemakers because variety really helps maintain the novelty. If kids hear the same sound every 10 or 15 minutes, it's going to become less effective. They'll just tune that out too. So try different things. You can use bells, wind chimes, Buddha bowls, triangles, rattles. Rain sticks are good, harmonicas, train whistles. There's really an endless set of options for noisemakers and instruments. And you could dedicate one sound maker or one instrument to each transition. So, for example, the rain stick might always be used to signal that it's time to finish independent reading or independent writing time. I really love rain sticks for this purpose because their sound is gentle and prolonged, and it doesn't jar students out of deep thought or a really relaxing time that they've just spent with a book. If you find that kids are particularly engrossed in the activity, you can always turn the rain stick upside down again and sound it again, and this time a little bit more quickly, and you can give a verbal reinforcement at the same time. When it's time to clean up from an activity, I like train whistles because They're loud enough to rise above all the other sounds in the classroom. For transitions between centers or stations, I like wind chimes because the sound that they produce is lengthy and it helps ensure that all the students hear it even if they're in the middle of the conversation and maybe not listening when they first start to chime. One of my favorite special sounds is a Zen chime. I got mine on Amazon for about $8. A Zen chime, that's Z-E-N, has a really long sustain. So you can teach your students to listen quietly to the chime and raise their hands when they hear it stop ringing. And this becomes like a game. The students will really strain to hear it, and no one wants to be the first to raise their hands. Within just a few seconds, it will be so silent in your classroom you can hear a pin drop. So that's called a Zen chime if you want to try that. A third attention grabber is interactive chants and call-in responses. I have a list of 50 fun call-in response ideas to get students' attention. It's on my blog. If you go to the post for this episode, go to thecornerstoneforteachers.com/S2EP14. That's for Season 2, Episode 14. thecornerstoneforteachers.com/S2EP14. I have linked to the post where I share the 50 fun call-in response ideas, and that will be more than enough to get you started with this. All call-in responses are naturally interactive, but I've found that the best ones are the ones that include some kind of physical movement. So you can clap out a rhythm for kids to repeat back, or you can use a chant that has motions, like drop it, zip it, lock it, followed by 2 claps. So when you say drop it, the kids have to actually drop what's in their hands. And when you say zip it, that means mouths are closed. And when you say lock it, that means all eyes are locked on the teacher. And then have the whole class all clap twice together. So it sounds like drop it, zip it, lock it. And younger students will say the chant right along with you, and that's kind of cool too. A simpler method is to have a code word, and that signals that students should stop doing what they're doing and complete a specific motion. So you can say something like jazz hands and have all kids do that motion. Or say a silly word, like say a phrase like banana bread, and when students hear it, they grab their ears with the opposite hand crossed in front of them. Something like this causes them to focus on doing something else other than what they're doing and keeps their hands busy. If they're young students who are still grappling with fine motor skills, it also requires them to concentrate just to complete the motion, and that's good too. Try to change up the word and the motion that you use every few weeks. Don't do it too often because you want kids to remember it and you want them to respond automatically without thinking. But do change it often enough that kids don't get tired of it. It's even better if you can let them brainstorm ideas for the code word and the motion, and you'll get even more buy-in then. Another idea is to play a Simon Says-like game. Just say, if you can hear me, put your hands on your head. If you can hear me, put your hands on your shoulder, that sort of thing. Use different directions, and this gets kids moving. It's very effective if it's not overused. I don't recommend doing this every single day. A fourth attention grabber is visual signals. This is a really fun opportunity to get creative. One teacher I know has a wand, and she attached a big check mark at the top. It's just a check mark that she made in a Word document and printed from the computer. And she trimmed the check mark in red sparkly garland. And she teaches kids on the first day of school that when she holds up the wand, they are to check in. So whenever the class gets off task, she holds the wand in the air, and the students who are paying attention hold one finger up as a check-in. And they get quiet until the other kids notice. This works pretty well for her. It's really awesome to see, and she never has to say a thing. So a visual signal like that is really cool. The visual signal that I like best is a time tracker stoplight. I got it from Amazon. If you go to thecornerstoneforteachers.com/S2EP14, you can see a picture of this time tracker stoplight, and you can also get the link for it if you want to buy it. So this time tracker has 3 colors that would light up, and you could program it so that each color stayed lit for a specific amount of time. So for a 20-minute activity, I'd have it stay on green for 15 minutes, And then it would change to yellow when there were 5 minutes left, and then red when there was 1 minute left. And when time was up, it would flash red a few times and play an alert sound. I had students who loved that timer. They wanted me to use it for pretty much every single activity. They wanted to be able to estimate and manage their time, and that was really cool to see. And they'd get all excited when it changed. They'd say, "Oh, it's on yellow, guys. Come on, we got to finish up. It's on yellow." And the rest of the class would hear this, and it would alert them to the time without me having to say anything. So the time tracker was really a terrific investment for my classroom. I highly recommend a stoplight timer like that. The fifth and final type of attention grabber that I like is an interactive countdown. So this could be as simple as just saying 3, 2, 1, hands up, and having everyone put their hands up. Or you could hold up one hand and use your fingers to show the numbers as you say, teaching in 5, teaching in 4, teaching in 3, teaching in 2, teaching in 1. Let's begin. If you teach elementary grades, when you're doing that, you can have students show the number on their fingers and participate in the countdown with you. And with practice with this, and over time, you won't even need to say the countdown. You can just put your hand up and count down on your fingers. I usually use a really straightforward backward countdown. If the class is quiet enough to hear me make that announcement that I'm going to be counting down, then I just count. I'll say, when I get to 0, I need the room to be completely quiet. 10, 9, 8, and so on, all the way down to 0. And then when time is up and I've gotten to 0, I move on to the next activity, just like I said I'd do. And the stragglers just kind of catch up, and I don't acknowledge them or stop what I'm doing unless I need to just quietly help them to the side as needed. I found that if you're really consistent with this, and when you say, we're moving on when I get to 0, students will learn you mean what they say. And they will find out they have to keep pace. No one wants to fall behind. That gets really frustrating. So a countdown can be a great way to prepare kids for what's coming, let them know how much time they have left, and know that you mean what you say and you're moving on. So I hope from this episode you've learned that attention grabbers don't have to be an annoyance for you. Think of them as a way to be creative and have fun with your students. Most of us desperately need more fun in our school day. So involve the kids of thinking of new ways to bring the group together as a class and keep changing up the techniques to keep things fresh. I want to leave you with a motivational quote for the week ahead that I call the takeaway truth. And this week's quote is from Charles Swindoll, who said, "Each day of our lives, we make deposits in the memory banks of our children." You know, it's not fun to nag kids and repeat ourselves. And it's not fun for them to be nagged or to be lectured. Let's try to make classroom memories that are playful and positive and enjoyable. Let's deposit good memories in the memory banks of our children. Refocusing a class is something that we have to do dozens of times a day. So why not create routines for that are enjoyable and engaging? I'd love to hear your thoughts on the show and how you refocus the class. Go to thecornerstoneforteachers.com/S2EP14 and leave your comments. You'll also be able to access the 50 call and response ideas that I've shared. Thanks for listening and have a fantastic week. You can do this. And remember, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be worth it. Truth for Teachers is a proud member of the Education Podcast Network. Podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. For more great podcast recommendations, go to edupodcastnetwork.com. That's edupodcastnetwork.com.